All right, so I will quickly introduce myself as I will be doing the moderation for the webinar. And my name is Ashley Evans. I am part of the Contractors sales team, and I have been selling into the construction tech, the construction space for the last 13 years. Recently, I was with PlanGrid and went through the acquisition over to Autodesk and spent another couple of years at Autodesk. So looking forward to having this conversation with you guys. Now, for those that aren't familiar with Constrafor, we're a construction technology company that has built a platform of solutions to help the general contractors and subcontractors with their back office responsibilities. Our solutions, they include things like pre-qualification, our COI management, utilizing our insurance AI co-pilot, contract management, invoice management, payments, diversity tracking, as well as our early pay program. Contractor was also really excited to announce that we recently won 2 awards, one for the top 50 2024 context startups, and another in the FinTech Innovation Top 50. So we're really excited to share those awards with you. Now I'd like to introduce our 2 co-hosts. We have Tom Reno with us, who is the CEO and co-founder of Agave, and they're a construction data integration platform. Prior to Agave, Tom worked over at Graphique, who was acquired by Amazon in 2017, I believe. And he stayed on with Amazon, where he led 3 software engineering teams. We also have Zachary Ames, and Zachary is the technology innovation manager over at Gramercy Group, a versatile heavy demolition and general contractor who's located in the New York metro area. So he has a background in civil engineering. Zachary kicked off his career managing job sites for Kiewit, Walsh, and Gramercy Group, eventually landing in his current role. It is during his hands-on experience that Zachary noticed the inefficiencies in operation, quality, communication, and that prompted him to really start researching and implementing technology. Guys, how did I do?
Pretty good.
Nothing to add. You did well.
Excellent. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys being here. So to quickly run through the agenda today, we're going to start off, discussing the overview of the construction landscape and the importance of automation, and then jumping into selecting the right tech and software partners. Then switching over and talking about the integration, as a key to successful automation. And it would not be a conversation today about technology if we did not spend a few minutes discussing AI. So we'll talk about AI in construction in that future. So to start this off, I don't have to tell you guys, y'all are all in construction. We know about the challenges that the construction industry faces with labor shortages, projects delays, and then, as the project delays and mismanagement, that also leads to the unexpected cost. So with that, what we're really seeing is, automation is more about streamlining and optimizing these processes. It's not about overhauling entire systems. And the industry is really focused on transitioning more towards automation as it's a strategic response to these labor shortages and the need for more efficient project management. And some examples of some areas that you can include automation is when your contract management, your insurance review, diversity tracking, and additional things. And I think that, some of these statistics really speak for themselves. What automation can do for you. A 15% increase in productivity, as well as a 50% decrease in time spent on manual tasks, and a 20% decrease in your project durations. And with those numbers, this is really a significant and quantifiable benefit. One of the big misconceptions that I see when I'm talking to general contractors about automation is they think that this is going to lead to increased, very expensive high cost, as well as lengthy implementations. And that's really not the case. It's very much about enhancing the existing workflows with efficient solutions. So Zachary, I'm going to start with you. What sparked Gramercy Group's shift towards automation?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought you put that well. And for us, coming from a background in demolition work, the projects were simpler and did not require as many tasks and as many different pieces of documentation. As we moved more into the general contracting side, there were more employees, more softwares mandated by the owners, more tasks to complete, more documentation. And with that level of sophistication, it started to become obvious that without automation, you would have to simply have more and more employees doing these repetitive tasks. And so that really moved us into the direction of, how can we put systems in place that can really organize a lot of that and simplify it.
Excellent. And what areas did you start with?
Some of the areas that we started with focused on our management of some contractors. Obviously, that as general contractor, that's where your responsibilities are moving towards. And then internal document management. And so going about implementing cloud-based systems where we could have a portal with subcontractors and interact with them and collect documentation and be collaborative. That was very helpful in that regard. And then obviously on the internal document side, trying to essentially be more organized with certain database structures that allow you to send an email or push a notification to people so that they're aware of items changing. And that also comes back to that cloud-based storage solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And now with any sort of change, I know there's always challenges. What challenges did you guys face at Gramercy and how did you navigate those?
Yeah, naturally, there's growing pains with trying to implement new solutions. I think sitting down with people, showing them the value proposition and how it will directly save them time or directly cause them to make fewer mistakes or have the risk of making a mistake and bring them into the conversation earlier rather than later in regards to putting the system and solution together, I think goes a long way. That's not usually how it's done. And you could see that kind of makes a pretty big difference.
Absolutely. I think some of the best partners that I've worked with have brought the right people to the table and got the buy-in early, to where people are understanding that it's going to make their jobs easier, not replace their jobs or not make their lives any harder, but really, get that buy-in early. So what tangible benefits have you seen from implementing these new technologies?
Yeah, right off the bat, as we spoke about before, that manual kind of busy work that people don't like doing necessarily, you're really starting to reduce a lot of that. There's no reason that, somebody with, the background and experience that a lot of our project management staff have has to be, moving documents around or keying in very basic information. So reducing some of that busy work, some of that double entry, and generally just shortening the time frames for carrying out different processes.
Perfect. And so, we just heard from Zachary from the GC side, and he kind of teed this up perfectly, transitioning over to Tom. Tom, I'm curious, what have you seen, and can you share some more insights from being an integration partner?
Yeah, so we are the opposite side of the coin as what Zachary was discussing, where contractors come to us and we're having dozens of conversations per week about problems they have and areas where they want to become more efficient so they can grow faster. And really, technology is an enablement tool to help their business grow. So the most common problems folks come to us to discuss are the three shown here. So the first is they feel like they're wasting time. Zachary mentioned there's a lot of time spent manually copy pasting data between different software systems, between random Excel spreadsheets that different project teams might be using in different formats. And no one likes doing that. So that's a common complaint that we hear is we're spending too much time manually transferring data and keying that in. It's tedious, it's administrative, it's not using my expertise and skills. And a lot of that is offline in Excel spreadsheets. So how do we waste less time on this so we can gain that time to invest more in growing our business? So that's one of the key problems that we hear. The second is our data doesn't seem accurate. It's not trustworthy, which is a huge, huge issue if you want to be more data driven in your reporting, in your projections, in your forecasting. You need to trust your data. So we often hear customers come to us and say, our data is trapped in our systems. That could be an ERP or finance system for job costing. That could be a project management tool for RFI submittals or other types of data. Or a vendor management system to track insurance and compliance. The data is trapped and it's siloed, and as a result, it's not shared. The data is inaccurate that we have today, and that is often because people are keying that in, and there's human error if you're not automating data transfer between applications. And then three, our data is stale. We can't trust that our dashboards are accurate because the data is 1, 2, 3 months old. And if we're trying to project costs into the future, we need data in real time or as close there to as we can get. Third, our costs are too high. As we scale, we need to lower our costs so we can grow faster and have better margins. And we can't be paying staff to manually copy paste data between systems. And we're not making data-driven decisions. We're making decisions based on gut or what's worked in the past, which may not resemble what works well on this project. So being more data-driven in decisions requires having real-time trustworthy data, and folks come to us with that goal in mind. So those are really the three common problems we hear most often.
I think those are all very accurate and things that we hear very regularly. The goal of this is to reduce the risk as well. And, on your last point with, the data not, or, discussing the data not being accurate and being stale, it's very hard to make decisions with incorrect data and not, increasing your risk on projects. So I agree with those. So I'm curious, Tom, what common workflows are contractors automating?
Yeah, we see a lot. We try to capture the 5 or 6 here that we see most often, but it really varies contractor to contractor. But maybe starting at the pre-construction process phase, we see a lot of folks who have data trapped, detailed budget information and schedule values data in their pre-construction and estimating tool. And there's a lot of line items there, especially for large projects that have to be manually transferred over to an ERP or accounting system. So that's one workflow at the start of a project that folks often look to target because it is so manually intensive to transfer that data over. And two, there's a lot of room for error. And if you get that data wrong, it can affect the later phases in a project. So estimating is one common workflow. Two is budgeting. So setting up your budget structure, cost codes, cost type phases, things like that in your project management solution, pushing that over to your accounting system so your project managers don't have to spend time double entering that data, and your accounting team can rely on the data and really standardize the data as it flows into the ERP that they live and breathe every day. Contract management, I think Zachary mentioned this, having cloud-based tools that can transfer commitments, subcontracts, purchase orders, change management process. So your project managers can stay in their preferred PM solution, like a Procore, like an Autodesk, and not have to double enter that data in an accounting system. And then your accountants can trust the data that is flowing to their accounting system from those solutions entered by the PM. So that's a very common workflow that we target in terms of automating. Time cards and payroll. Everyone wants to get paid on time and have their paycheck be accurate. So that's a pretty important one. And accountants that we work with spend a lot of time taking data from time cards, timesheets, extracting that, looking up cost codes or pay groups from their ERP, and then entering that line by line painstakingly in their accounting system so we can automate that to save the accountant's time and improve the accuracy to reduce rework on payroll as well. And then invoicing, contractors deal with a lot of invoices that they're working to automate with subcontractors, especially in high volume projects. So that's another common workflow. And then reporting. We talked about having better visibility, closer to real time to understand your current state, but also your projections into the future. And to get real time and accurate reporting, there needs to be automation in extracting data, combining it across your various systems to really get that visibility into the current state and future state.
I definitely see a lot of those being of major value. And I'm curious, just as a whole, what value does integrating these systems together really bring?
Yeah, so we really target 3 areas when we talk about value of integrations. So those are going to be saving time, eliminating extra costs, and then gaining peace of mind. So you can kind of translate each of those to some of the automations you see here. So let's just say peace of mind for executives. That's going to be having reports that you can use to audit your projects in real time and actually trust that data. Two, saving costs. That's going to be around mostly finance and accounting, doing dual data entry, manual, tedious tasks, and eliminating the time they spend on that and the time they spend fixing and auditing errors to really improve outcomes. And then saving time is often operations and project teams. So they can stay in their preferred systems. They can enter data without context switching and have that data flow from their project management solution into their accounting and ERP tool without having to dual enter that and context switch. So the data flows automatically between systems. They save time and ultimately could be more productive in managing risk on the projects that they're owning.
Great. Appreciate both of y'all's feedback on that. Curious, Zachary, do you have anything that you want to add to Tom's points coming from the other side before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, the ability to obviously get the reporting down in order to mitigate risk or even know what your risk exposure is something I hear about a lot, and that we're very aware of. And so I would say that's really one of the items to prioritize, because you will find that these projects are unfolding and then one cost report 1 month to the next is like, that's the month where everything changes. So that's certainly, we're trying to smooth that line out over time.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. So now that we've started talking about the automation, and now it's the different areas that you can add the automation in, now that if you are looking at software partners, there's a big risk in making sure that you do select the right partner, and that really becomes a pivotal decision. One of the things I see when I'm talking with general contractors, and when they are looking at some of these solutions, some of the things that they're looking for is we want to make sure that it's compatible with your existing systems. We also want to make sure that it's able to scale with you as your business grows. What I see is a lot of general contractors, their systems work and their current revenue and their current projects, but they are at this pivotal point where they're starting to really grow, and that number, the annual revenue is going to start to grow, and so now they have to figure out how they're going to scale their systems with that growth. So making sure that the solutions that that fit today will also grow with you, as well as the reliability. Then one of the ones that I've noticed is becoming a lot more important, and I think it should be, one of the bigger ones, is the strong customer support. You want to make sure that the technology you pick today is not like, okay, great, thank you for signing the order form, see you later, here's your login. But you want to make sure you're picking somebody that's going to be a strategic partner with you moving forward. Zachary, I'm curious, based on kind of that, can you share with us a little bit of Gramercy's criteria in choosing tech partnerships?
Yeah. Touching on the last point, customer success becoming more standard in the industry is definitely really positive. That's something we look towards. It's not always easy to figure out exactly what the level of attention will be, but it is important to ask about it and have a conversation. Ease of use you have at the bottom there, especially if you're working out in the fields, working out, depending on what the tool is per se. You want a tool that's going to be, mobile friendly if it lends itself to that, or have the ability to, be very easy for people to jump into. There should be some level of training for any implementation, but the ease of use is going to be able to save people time so that they get back to their job of managing these projects or doing their different operations in the office. The cost structure and how exactly that will potentially change over time is an important item to note. A lot of different providers have different cost structures, and it's important to be aware of that right at the beginning. And construction focused. It's, for a long time, there have been a lot of softwares provided to the industry that haven't necessarily been, developed and thought about in regard to the specific problems that the industry has. But the industry is big enough to support software companies that are specific to it. And it's good to see that there are those point solutions that are contractor focused now. That was one of the main drivers of us choosing Contra4 and being able to say, oh, here's what the contractors are. Oh, we do a lot of public work, so there's a lot of diversity requirements. Like there's a tab for that where everything's organized with the specific documents that we would expect to see for that process. So that's been really good. And yeah, I mean, just curious, Tom, from your perspective, why you focused on construction in regard to any other industry.
Yeah, it's really around. There's a lot of specific needs that construction has that we felt weren't addressed when we started the company. So really, I think there are four areas we identified. The first one is a lot of horizontal solutions that aren't specific to construction or any one industry, lacked a lot of the support for data constructs or types of data that are critical to supporting construction. So just some examples would be cost codes or phases, kind of the work breakdown structure, budgeting side of things aren't captured in generic tools. The idea of subjobs or multiple financial entities that are interconnected and project specific, subcontracts, commitments, purchase orders, change orders, the change management process. All of these are very specific to construction and aren't necessarily present in other industries. And as a result, aren't covered by generic tools. So you really want a construction specific tool that understands the nuances of these constructs and can handle the data structures and trying to automate those, just so you have something that actually works for your business and not something that is attempting to solve generic problems for 5 or 6 different industries rather than what you need for your specific industry. So that's a big one, is support for construction specific data. 2 is deep partnerships with the companies who operate your software. So if you are on an ERP or accounting system, you want your technology provider to understand that system, to be an expert. And if there's an issue when you're automating work in that system, to know who to reach out to have that phone number or email to get a quick answer and understand what questions to ask. Because partnerships and knowledge of the companies who provide these software solutions is critical to providing a good experience. So often we see contractors coming to us evaluating a construction specific integration tool like Agave against broad tools, where they're going to have to set up and build from scratch integrations with these systems. They're going to have to develop partnerships on their own with the software companies who run these systems. And that's what we bring to the table, such that you can onboard much faster and just trust that we have partnerships. We know who to reach out to. Your issues will be resolved faster, and you have to build less from scratch. So that results in faster onboarding and less work required from your team, which is the third point. You just get up to speed faster without having to build from scratch. And then last, I think you both hit the nail on the head with the expertise of your implementation team and your support staff. So how quickly can you get up to speed? And when you have a question that is nuanced, is the person on the other side of your integration or automation tool understanding your language? Are they speaking the same words and understanding what you're saying around the construction specific terminology you're using? A lot of generic tools simply don't understand that, and you'll waste a lot of time just talking past one another. So that's a critical component, and that's why a lot of customers choose us. Is we get the way they talk and think, and it's just faster, and there's less loss in translation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think both of y'all discussing, the construction first technology as well as integration partners really makes the conversation, no industry is obviously the same, but construction has its own very specific needs. And making sure that you are having those conversations with tech partners that do understand those needs and are working to help you do your job better is a really big key to success. So transitioning over, from there, I'm curious, Tom, can you kind of walk through, the ROI on automation through these integrations?
Yes, we discussed the value earlier, and here's really the accounting equation we use to help our customers quantify the ROI. So how much time are you saving? How much cost are you eliminating? And then how much peace of mind are your executives and cross-project personnel gaining in having that visibility and ability to project accurately that Zachary mentioned earlier, and really audit projects when things go off track, versus 2 months later after they've gone off track and you're trying to wind things back too late. So here's really the accounting equation: is saving time, eliminating costs, gaining peace of mind. And then this is what we equip our customers with internally to sell the value of automation and integration internally, because it benefits several different teams. And often automation requires buy-in from these teams. And here's it's a complex stakeholder problem where you've got to bring together many different teams to decide on a solution. And here's a great way we help our customers pitch that internally. So operations, you get to stay in your preferred system. You're not bouncing around and context switching. Finance, you eliminate dual data entry and tedious admin work. You can actually focus on doing complex accounting and auditing versus just keying in data manually. And then last, your executives get that peace of mind, in part because of the first 2 points for operations and finance. They have better day-to-day. They have happier kind of day-to-day working in software that they prefer, avoiding that dual data entry. And as a result, you get to keep your best people and they don't become flight risks. So you have happier people who are more productive. So really, those are the 3 factors that we like to highlight to get everyone on board across those stakeholder groups to decide on an automation tool that makes sense for the entire company and not just one project manager.
Great. And I think you have a case study that you have a little bit of insight on.
Yes, we helped a company called Brinkman Construction, which is based in Fort Collins, Colorado, and they were transitioning their project management tool. And they wanted to take this as an opportunity to reevaluate some of the workflows between their project management tool and their ERP accounting system, and really understand if there's efficiency gains they could have through integration. So that was what they came to us and asked. And actually, they were referred to us by the ERP and project management solution because we were construction specific. We understood the partnership, the systems, the questions that often folks have around these. So again, that construction specificity is very important. And what we help Brinkman do is use a tool of ours to link data automatically between their accounting ERP tool and their project management tool to allow data to flow between them. So as you see on the screen here, vendors can be set up in your ERP system, and that can automatically flow into your project management tool without having to key those in. And as you have dozens of projects starting up per year, that eliminates a lot of manual work, such that you only have to manage vendors in one system. It flows automatically. Your PMs can see vendors and choose and invoice them accordingly without having to manually key that in. So automating the workflow for transferring vendors, project setup could be done in CMIC, their accounting system, and flow to their PM tool. Budget line items and really the whole financial management on the project side could be done in the PM tool and automatically flow to the accounting tool. And really this scaled across not just one project, but across every project that Brinkman Construction is doing. So of course we start with one, but now they're on dozens of projects, saving time for each of these automations and data flows for each data type. So as they use each tool and grow their business and continue to expand, they reap the rewards, and the ROI continues to increase through automation. And really going back to the previous discussion points we were talking about, the ROI continues to increase for saving time, cutting costs, and giving executive peace of mind and better data for enhanced reporting. So really automating data flows, Brinkman Construction can grow faster. That's the goal that they have, and that's our target goal and KPI for enabling them, is to grow their business even faster than they were before through automation. So great case study. There's a link here in case you want to learn more as a contractor automating data flows.
Great. You brought up a good point there that I think, ties in a little bit to that of them starting with one project and then growing that out. That's one of the things that we've been heavily focused on with our general contractors when implementing technology, of identifying those key projects with the right stakeholders that will provide the buy-in to get it up and running, and then take the lessons learned from that, and then start that expansion and growing and implementing the technology across the board. I think that's one of the big things we've noticed very key successes in on identifying those projects that have the right mentality and the right stakeholders involved to get the buy-in, and then you hear, word of mouth, and everybody wants to get included. So on our last topic, the future of AI in construction, I feel like it's not a conversation about construction tech without having the conversation of, the role of AI in the future. And, I think a few statistics here that I think are pretty valuable is that AI is expected to improve employee productivity by 40%, as well as has the potential to improve data accuracy by 80%. So Tom, in your experience with the construction software integrations, how do you see AI enhancing these systems? And what role do you believe AI will play in streamlining integration processes in the future?
So I think a lot of this is attractive at a high level, but there's infrastructure that needs to be in place to enable this to actually be realized. And I think a lot of contractors are realizing, and over the past few years have been realizing, that maybe they're not set up to achieve the results shown in this slide and that they're hearing at other companies, because their systems aren't integrated, they're not connected, the data quality isn't there. So that's really a lot of our focus, is laying the groundwork, laying the foundations in terms of really three things to then set your company up to enable these AI applications that you can really reap rewards from. So the three things we really work on are helping you share data across systems, so data access. So ensuring that you can share your data securely between your systems of record for project management, for accounting, for project tracking. So other systems that you use can access it easily in an automated way. So ensuring that your data isn't siloed. Two, ensuring your data has quality, meaning it's trustworthy, it's standardized, and you can actually feed that into an AI application and it will yield useful results versus just garbage in, garbage out. So we work with contractors to ensure that their data is not only accessible, but it's trustworthy and it's high quality. And then third, less of a technology point, but it's more of a human organizational point, is process standardization. So we work with a lot of contractors who have the desire and the will to invest in integration and automation to achieve the benefits that you're talking about here, but they lack standardization across their many project teams. And we invest a lot of time helping them think about how to standardize their processes, so they can have really standard data inputs across their various project teams. So one PM isn't entering data in a different way than two or three other PMs, which relates back to data quality. So if I'm a contractor watching this, I'm thinking AI and the ROI AI can give my company is attractive, but I need to ensure that the groundwork and the foundation is present to enable me to reap those benefits. So integration through data access, data quality, and then process standardization internally at your company, and just getting stakeholders to align on what do we do in certain circumstances is all key and fundamental to enabling the value that you're describing here.
Yes, I would definitely agree. Clean data and confirming that data is accurate is for sure going to really lay that foundation to make sure that you can, start to utilize AI. Zachary, I'm curious, as a general contractor, how do you anticipate AI integrations to change your project management landscape? And are there any steps you guys are taking over at Gramercy to adapt to the AI-driven future in construction?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of as a personal anecdote from my experience, in the field managing projects, you spend some of your time on quality, some of your time on cost, some of your time on engineering, some of your time on safety, and then it feels like the other bucket is looking for information and searching through, a shared folder structure, searching through Excel sheets, searching through the specifications, the drawings. And so I think the first step in the industry will be to create, some kind of company chatbot where you are going to, be able to feed it a lot of information, and it'll be able to connect information from a drawing and a plan set, to a specific page of a specification. And so I think that's really the first step, being able to access information faster, whereas it might have taken you 5-10 minutes to look for something. We're going to eliminate that. So moving our information into a cloud-based system where you have the groundwork to be able to do something like that, using databases to store information, you'll never be able to get to that chatbot or that easier way of communicating or finding things if you don't have them stored in the correct way. So that's certainly the first step, and how we've approached it thus far. I do think there will be a lot of opportunity with, some of these wearables and the vision-based aspects around AI from a quality and from a safety standpoint. But I do think that the chat nature of it's going to be, more interactive to begin with, and probably sooner on the implementation.
I think those are all really good points. And the wearables, I think, is a really exciting thing for a quality and safety aspect out on the job sites. So that's kind of the end of what we wanted to discuss today. I'm going to jump into the chat, but if you guys have any additional questions, please go ahead and throw those in. Looking at the chat really quick. This is for Zachary. One of these is, in implementing new technology at Gramercy Group, did you face any pushback from decision makers or team members? If so, how did you address their concerns and get buy-in?
Yeah, as mentioned before, it's important to bring them into the conversation and to make people feel like they have, an impact on how it will be implemented and maybe the best strategy for doing that. I also think that having the process mimic or at least closely resemble a current process, just with more efficiency and maybe some more digitization and automation around it, is the best way to go about it. So you can take a system like a contract negotiation, for instance. So that is one of the items that Contra4 has replaced. So originally the system was, type it up in Microsoft Word and email it out, and then the other person will print it out, mark it up, and then return it to you. And so people understood when you asked them to never go through that printing process and just interact with it in a web-based system, it wasn't too much of a jump. But a lot of the strike-throughs and the redlining, it did mimic the process close enough that they were able to remain comfortable with it. And I think mimicking it and coming close to resembling the current process is pretty important and helpful for that.
Great. Okay. And next one, I think this one's for you, Tom, regarding integrations. When starting to implement a new integration, what is the realistic timeline for full implementation, and how might this affect the day-to-day operations during the transition?
Yeah, it's a good question, and the answer I'll try to give a generic one is the classic "it depends," but I'll talk in what we usually see in terms of implementing integrations with customers to give some benchmarks. So we like to first, as I alluded to earlier, align on internal processes with our customer. So we'll say, what systems are you integrating, who uses those systems, and what's the data that you want to transfer between system A and system B. So let's just take an example. You have an accounting and a project management tool. You have dozens or maybe more people using those tools. What data do you want to flow between them, and what direction do you want to go in? So it's really getting the stakeholders in a kickoff meeting to align on requirements of what data do you want to flow in which direction between systems, and what are your current workflows today, and do we have to adjust anything? And to Zachary's point, trying to be minimally disruptive such that we can automate work that people are doing today without changing much about your business. So we want to fit your existing workflows, but get everyone aligned on what those workflows are before we try to automate them without disrupting too much. So that's really step one, is aligning stakeholders and defining what data we want to move from which systems in which direction. After that, we try to, of 100% of that work, bite off a chunk. So that might be 30, 50, 60%. We call that kind of phase one of delivery. And that's usually after that kickoff meeting. The first 1 to 3 weeks is typically what you can just ballpark that phase one of implementation being. And the goal there is to deliver value quickly. So you and your stakeholders who are bought into this automation can start receiving that value and that ROI sooner rather than later. So we bite off of 100% of that work, a subset, and we aim to first test. Automation can be, I think, scary might be the right word, because it's you're doing so much at once. So we want to test and be thorough that everyone is okay with the automation process before we scale up. So we'll pick and maybe even create a dummy project or use a historical project to test the automations that we've defined, to really ensure that everyone is okay with the automation before we scale this out. And we gradually scale from a test or a historical project to maybe one live project, and then multiple live projects is typically the phasing during that week 2 to 3 period. And then usually weeks 4 to 6, we finish the remaining percentage of that 100% of work that we defined initially. And it takes the same process where we work backward from the requirements all the stakeholders have defined. We pick a historical or dummy project we've created and then dial it up slowly to ensure that the automation works. We iron out any kinks before this rolls out to all live projects. So it's a very gradual, iterative process, but end to end usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks is a safe benchmark, and can take more, can take less. Common causes of delays that we see are if there's unclear requirements or stakeholders internally aren't aligned on what they want to automate. That's the most common kind of delay in that process. And then if there are any issues that come up around customization or bespoke workflows for your company, that can take a little longer. But 4 to 6 weeks as the takeaway is a general ballpark for an integration that we implement with our customers.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for one more question, and I'm going to give this one to Zachary. Of all the automation that you have adopted, what do you feel has made the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time?
Yeah, I'd probably allude back to the contract negotiation portal from
Okay.
Contrafor. Just kind of hearing the commentary from our legal counsel and how much she is appreciating being able to see everything in one place and being able to move these contracts along faster. I know it's definitely gone a long way, and that's been pretty substantial for us, and the impact's been pretty quick as well.
Great. Well, I think we've come to an end. Tom, Zachary, truly appreciate the time and the transparency here and just being able to talk through this. And everybody on the webinar, really appreciate you guys joining the webinar, and we will send out a recording here shortly. Appreciate your time.